Hi, this is Craig James with Just Informed Talk, and I want to let you know that you can get the best price on gold and silver today, and I'm very proud to be working with the folks over at shop.allamericangold.com. You can go visit their website today or call them at 800-951-0592. But what they're going to do is they're going to give you the best prices on gold and silver available on the market today. They're offering the most competitive prices out there. And let me just tell you this, if you're not prepared for the financial collapse that's coming and the wars that continue to spiral out of control and the fiat currency eventually collapsing with the inflation going through the roof, you need to start now. Go get your gold and silver. Go to shop.allamericangold.com or call 800-951-0592 and let them know Craig sent you. But more importantly, get yourself protected and prepared for what's ahead.
The truth. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is Just Informed Talk Radio, where we are not ashamed of the gospel, because it is God's power for salvation to everyone who believes.
One thing, I don't know why, it doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind, I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away, it's so unreal. Didn't look out below, watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on, but you didn't even know. Wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart.
Welcome to another Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. Today is a big day, a lot of news that we need to cover and get through. But in the first part of the show, we're going to take some time to go through highlights from last night's debate. Yes, the GOP presidential debate took place without Donald Trump again. This was the final one. I think it was the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. And again, the winner is obvious and clear to me, at least. And most people who actually care about this country and don't want to turn it over to the NEOCON military-industrial complex warmongers who only want to see death and destruction so that they can further enrich themselves at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer, all while telling us it's for our own good and that without them, we would be living in misery. And they want us to live in fear so that we continue to put power into their hands. But we're going to talk about that and a lot more. I hope you guys are ready. So here is the beginning, though. Thank you. Thank you to everybody listening. If you're listening live on 1360 KHNC on the AM dial here in the Front Range, from Colorado up into Wyoming and over in Nebraska, we appreciate that thoroughly. Or if you're listening on 1360KHNC.com, we truly appreciate that as well. Or if you're listening to the live stream over on any of the multiple platforms where this is streamed, whether that is Rumble or otherwise, thank you for joining us here today. We have a lot to cover, and I hope you guys are ready. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting how this day shapes up. You know, I have all these highlights, but let me just give you my general take, if for whatever it's worth. I'll throw in my 2 cents at the beginning of all this, and then we'll let you guys hear some highlights from last night's debate. But I had to watch it because obviously it is part of my job to get this information and then share it with all of you. As I watched the debate, a few things I noticed were pretty clear off the bat. First off, they were trying to divide the stage into the left-leaning, and it was funny how the stage was set up, because you had the left-leaning uniparty neocon establishment RINOs, Chris Christie on the far left, then Nikki Haley in the mid-left, then you had in the mid-right Ron DeSantis, and in the far right Vivek Ramaswamy. And I know that was by design. That was not a mistake on their part. But it was an interesting show nonetheless. And what I noticed right off the bat was that Ron DeSantis really took a calm, standoff approach tonight. He tried to get in his jabs here and there, but he just is a weak man in general as far as his demeanor. I think he's been emasculated immensely by Trump in so many different ways that he obviously understands where he's there. They all were put in their place. Megyn Kelly, this was a News Nation debate, by the way. One of the moderators was Megyn Kelly and a couple other kind of no-name people. I'm pretty sure it was all women. It was 3 women, which of course, because, diversity. We need all the women to do it, right? Because you can't have men. That's just the way things go these days. And Megyn Kelly did a pretty good job. I mean, her opening remarks for each candidate were very, very interesting, especially when it comes to kind of dressing down people like Chris Christie and Nikki Haley, giving the critiques right off the bat. And of course, watching politicians speak is almost impossible for those of us who are awake and aware, because they have that political speak where it's like nothing they say. They circumvent questions. They sidestep every direct question and give you some prepackaged response that's really a meaningless, non-sequitur answer that doesn't really amount to anything other than, filibustering and getting to a point that they have focus grouped so that they can present a talking point that, again, it means nothing other than to a specific part of the base that they're trying to target, right? Well, that's not the case with Vivek. Vivek is a very outspoken critic of everyone on that stage, and it was wonderful to have somebody with a voice that represents, at least in part, people who have a complete and utter disdain for the establishment to the same degree that Trump has toward these people, but at least somebody's there voicing it. And, I think Megyn Kelly's opening remarks to Chris Christie were like, Trump's got 81% support amongst Republicans, and you have, she said 20%, but I can't believe that he has 20%. That doesn't sound correct to me. However, that's what they're saying. If Chris Christie's got 20%, we're really in trouble, right? Because that man is not only the most disgusting and grotesque human being I've ever seen practically, but he's also just a completely unlikable guy. He's got this like tough guy persona that is when you hear a weak person speak in tough terms, it's so to me humiliating for that individual, right? When you watch a guy like Chris Christie, who's probably the softest, I mean, literally, physically speaking, but emotionally, he's the softest, weakest person you'll ever see in your life, who's been coddled by this NEOCON establishment for so long that he thinks he's this tough guy. It's this false bravado that goes, I'm a tough guy. I'm going to tell you, I'm not afraid to stand up to Trump. He's such a this, that, and the other. And you're thinking, brother, all you're doing is fighting for the establishment that protects you, that gives you this false sense of security. It's like when a little brother picks a fight with a bully or a bigger kid because he knows he's got his big brother back there ready to step in. And Chris Christie then tried to kind of do some white knighting with Nimrata. And if you go, who is Nimrata? Is that like Vivek's other middle name? No, Nimrata is Nikki Haley's actual name. Her name is very difficult to pronounce. It's a very long and foreign name, which is fine. I'm not trying to make fun of that. I'm just saying that if you're going to be who you are, this is the whole thing. They get these focus groups, they get these publicists, they get these political researchers and advisors all around these people. Like, Nikki, you can't be called Nimrata. You have to be called Nikki Haley, or else you'll never get nominated or elected. And it's like, well, first of all, maybe there's a reason for that. Like, it's not because of her name, it's because of who she is. And maybe like it's a little bit deceptive to change your name so that you sound like you're one person. It's like when Hillary Clinton gets the Southern drawl when she goes to the Deep South church, and then she goes on the hip hop radio shows and is like, I put hot sauce on everything. You're like, lady, it's pandering. It's pandering is what it is, and it's deceptive. But, Chris Christie doing his white knight routine with Nikki Haley was interesting. Watching DeSantis, kind of an emasculated, hollow shell of a man. Something I picked up on, though, was that Vivek, I like Vivek a lot. I think his voice really speaks to a lot of things that I agree with, and I appreciate that thoroughly. But one thing I did pick up on amongst the debate was, and you probably had to be paying attention to catch this, was the fact that even though he did throw a few jabs at Ron DeSantis, he was very careful to continuously say kind of complimentary things toward Ron DeSantis, almost as if giving him credit in comparison to the other two on the stage, which is fair, but I have a feeling that he understands he probably will not be, unfortunately, the pick for vice president with Donald Trump, so he may be positioning himself for a possible Ron DeSantis, vice presidency role. We'll see. I mean, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but stay tuned. I'm going to play clips and give more analysis when we come back. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. And just to let y'all know, the text and call line's open if you want to chime in on what you picked up, what you saw, what you think about what happened in last night's debate. Of course, we have a few people who regularly text in. One of our texters, who I appreciate, thoroughly for their vigor and consistency in texting, likes to give a kind of a running commentary on the show, and so I apologize if I can't read every one of your texts on air. It's a choice between actually doing the live show and reading texts indefinitely. I got to choose one or the other here. I will read your texts, though, if you text in and want them to be read along on air. It's just a little more difficult, as I said, when you have multiple texts in a row that are kind of a running commentary on the show. But we are reading them, so there's that, just to let y'all know. Again, that number is 877-536-1360, 877-536-1360. And there's a lot more to cover here today. So what I was talking about with Nikki Haley is, I think, very clear to anybody who's paying attention. In my humble opinion, she is clearly Warhawk, NEOCON, RINO, if there ever was one. Her recent endorsements from, all of the real bad guys would tell you that. People like Larry Fink throwing their weight behind her. And if you don't know who he is, he's the CEO of BlackRock. So that's the kind of thing we should really be careful to understand about these people on stage. And Chris Christie, he's being propped up by establishment figures who want to kind of have the guy who jabs Trump. And he's kind of like, it almost was like the stage was set up purposely so that you had, Nikki Haley and Chris Christie as one half of the equation, like a president-vice president debate, and then, Ron DeSantis and Vivek as another half. Of course, Trump not being there was intentional because, I think Trump would wipe the floor with these people, and I think at this point, because here's my opinion, right? So people are a lot of different places with Trump and why he won't debate and what that says about him. And some people like Chris Christie will say it's because he's too afraid to get on. I mean, like, if you think he's afraid to get on a debate stage with Chris Christie, that's kind of a joke. But other people will say it shows how little he cares. Some people say it's the right move. Here's my opinion on it. The reason I believe Trump won't get on the stage with these people is quite clear to those of us who have a certain set of beliefs or understandings about what's been happening in this country over the last 3 or 4 years. for him to get on that stage with those candidates, in my humble opinion, would be, I think they have that stupid pledge that Romney McDaniel has put forth saying, like, you have to sign this paper that says you'll support whoever the candidate is, and Trump doesn't want to do that, so they're not letting him participate. But I guess now they were going to let him participate because the ratings are so abysmal and it's all these things. But secondly, and I think more overly, I think Trump understands, as we do, as I believe, that him going on that debate stage validates their stolen election, if that makes sense. Meaning, Trump knows 2020 was stolen, and you're going to be standing on a stage with a bunch of people who don't admit that, besides Vivek. At least, at minimum, Vivek is willing to say things on stage that are true when it comes to the fact that the 2020 election was stolen. There's that. I mean, but everyone else on the stage is like Fox News, NEOCON, gatekeeper. Biden won fair and square. It was all above board. 81 million votes. Oh wow, he's such a great guy. Because it's a uniparty thing, right? They don't care. And I was listening to interesting commentary the other day where they were discussing the fact that this was a former CIA asset who has a YouTube channel and has all this stuff that he goes on and gives talks on all these major podcasts and productions about. But he was essentially saying that, the real reason that the establishment never admits when they're wrong about anything is because that would it would bring down the whole house of cards that they've developed. And that's why they say a lie, they stick with the lie, and they never relent from the lie. And I think that's true. I think that's they know, like the fake news anchors and all these other people, they know full well exactly what's happening here. They know exactly the truth about all of this. They know better than you could ever imagine exactly how corrupt the whole system is, how fraudulent the election was, how rigged it all is still, how all they do is lie. The propagandists lied to the American people about everything all the time. And again, it's because once they tell the truth, that system will crumble and fall apart. And in their mind, they're providing this great service of security to the people. However, without getting too off on a tangential rant here, let's start listening to some clips from last night's debate. I think that's a good exercise we should do, because that's kind of my commentary on it. I could go on. There's a lot more, and I will. But there were some highlights that I think are worth sharing, and it's like where to even begin. And I'll be honest, pretty much all the highlights I have are Vivek. I mean, there's not, and I don't mean this like, oh, well, I'm not going to present you any other, but I mean, if you want to hear what Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Ron DeSantis said in the debate last night, just turn on Fox News. I mean, because that's what they're going to be playing nonstop, all day. You know what clips they're not going to be playing on Fox News? The ones I'm about to share with you of Vivek Ramaswamy. Because you have morons like Brian Kilmeade and all these other idiots at Fox News, what's the name, Ducey, and all these other, just airheads running that joint like Paul Ryan, who absolutely despise and loathe both Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Vivek is perfect by any means, but I am saying that the reason that the majority of the clips I'm going to play on the show today are Vivek, as opposed to Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis or Chris Christie, is pretty simply, and you'll hear a few of those people along the way, but it's pretty simply because, like I said, if you want to hear any of those other people, just turn on Fox News. All day long. That's all you're going to hear. Nikki Haley won the debate. Now that she's, endorsed by the Pentagon, the Deep State, Larry Fink at BlackRock, and everyone else, she's our candidate. We love her. Yeah. Well, if you want that, go turn on Fox News and you'll hear Ron DeSantis in his weak, effeminate voice I mean, he looks like a man who's broken. I really think the boot thing got to him. And I know it's hard for a lot of people, especially like women, to understand, I think, in a lot of ways, how emasculating it is to be exposed as being like, you know, faking some part of who you are, like in that regard. Maybe women understand. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe it's hard for certain people. Maybe it's not a gender thing, but maybe it's hard for certain people to understand what that's like. But when you watch Ron DeSantis, I mean, he looks like a completely broken man. And I think it's because he was wearing boots with those high heels in them. And I think he literally thought that nobody was going to notice. And I think he feels like a fool for listening to whoever told him to do that. Because, you know, he didn't think of that on his own. That was some focus group research, you know, a political, you know, consultant, you know, came up to him and was like, all right, so here's what we think you need. So people won't vote for, you know, people will respect you if you just look a little bit taller. Nobody will know. Just put this nice, you know, $600 high heel concealed boot on, and it'll lift you up about 3 inches. And you'll nobody will notice. And then, of course, somebody noticed, and it just broke him. Because, I mean, and, you know, beside that, he's been exposed as being exactly what we expect. I mean, he's George Bush, folks. If you want another Bush administration, vote for Ron DeSantis by all means. If you like what Bush did, if you like 9/11, if you like what his father did, you know, the 1,000 points of light, New World Order, if you want all of that, then vote for DeSantis, because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that again. But if you don't, and you don't want, you know, Skull and Bones, Secret Society, Harvard, Yale, Ivy League, you know, elite, entitled, arrogant, you know, Illuminati folks, then if you don't want that, then don't vote for him. Because that's the choice we have. No matter, Ron DeSantis can say anything he wants as far as, like, you know, he makes all these claims, like, he pushes on the buttons that he knows will trigger the base with regard to, like, transgenderism and stuff with certain regard to the COVID vaccine, even though he's been helping with legislation, as I've covered here on the show, in Florida, that essentially makes it so that, you know, vaccine mandates are the vaccines are mandatory in certain cases when the state deems it necessary, which is wildly, in my opinion, unconstitutional and an affront to that which is good. But I'll just say this without talking anymore, because I know I'm just continuing to talk here where I said I was going to play clips. If you want that, you know, NEOCON, military industrial, never-ending war, you know, we're gonna save you from yourself type deal. We're gonna stand up for Boeing and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and Amazon and Target and Walmart, and we're gonna protect the corporations, and we're gonna do what's best for them while you suffer with, you know, never-ending inflation, never-ending wars, never-ending deficit spending that only makes you poor and makes your children's future more insecure. If you want that, then vote for them. Vote for Nikki Haley. Vote for Ron DeSantis. Vote for Chris Christie. I don't know. But if you don't want that, maybe listen to some of these folks here. I'll play this clip. I'm just picking a random one here because I have so many. Vivek Ramaswamy going scorched earth on Nikki Haley and the establishment GOP. Listen to this.
Somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time. And I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day that she says that every American needs to be doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside, with fresh legs, from the next generation to unite this country, not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet masters.
Yeah, broken politicians who are the puppets of the puppet masters. I like that because it's true. You know, when you speak plain truth, that's when you're most dangerous to the establishment. They have to conceal everything, lie about everything, propagandize everything, and that's so obvious. And as Vivek pointed out appropriately, what we're seeing with Nikki Haley is just the same thing we're seeing with DeSantis, just the same thing we're seeing with Chris Christie. I mean, the people up there on that stage do not represent the American people. They represent BlackRock. If you want to be a slave in BlackRock's, surf, in their kingdom that they're creating, if you want to be one of their serfs, the peasant, in their corrupt monarchy, then by all means, vote for, Nikki Haley. Stay tuned. We'll be back after the break. This is Craig James from Just Informed Talk Radio, and I want to take a second to tell you about my friends over at thefreedompeople.org. If you guys haven't tried them, you need to give them a call today. All you have to do is go to thefreedompeople.org and set up your call. And what can they help you do? Well, through legal and lawful processes, they'll help you reduce exposure to the tax man or other bureaucratic bodies. They can help you do things like set up express trusts, which help manage your business assets and affairs effectively and privately, while helping you gain greater control of you and your family's future. It can also help you do things like set up private membership associations, which help you restructure your business in a way that allows you to run it exactly how you want. If you believe your children should be able to receive their inheritance without paying an arm and a leg in taxes, and that taxes are unjust, the government ceases to represent the interests of its people, I want you to take a second today to go to freedompeople.org and schedule your call. Let them know I sent you, but more importantly, help make sure that your future is protected and that your business and your family are protected. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. And of course, we have a lot more show for you here today. We're going to keep playing clips. And by the way, we're going to have a special guest joining us in the second hour. If you guys know, it's like, if you know, it's Thursday. Second hour on Thursday, we have our guest, friend of the show, host of another show here on KHNC, JD Plorable. He'll be joining us in the second hour, and I'm excited about that. But there's a lot more. And also, a little programming note to everybody out there. First of all, I want to let you all know that tomorrow's show is a special show. You're going to want to tune in. And I'm saying that now because I'm having a good friend of mine who has a background in the military. He is known as one of the Benghazi whistleblowers who came forward and basically helped disseminate the information about how corrupt the entire fiasco that took place during the Benghazi incident was with Hillary Clinton and everyone else. He's a military veteran. He has an incredible story to share. His name is Nick No. He's going to be joining us and giving us an insight into some very deep deep history that, look, if you want to get kind of what the information that they want you to stay, they don't want you near, the rabbit hole stuff, the inside baseball stuff on what could be going on behind the scenes. I'm not going to sit here and say that I may disagree with some of it even, but it doesn't mean it's not true, and it's another perspective. He's going to talk about things related to continuity of government. A lot of what many people out there believe is actually happening behind the scenes with regard to how the military is taking control and how everything we're seeing is an illusion, that Joe Biden is a puppet of not necessarily the dark forces that we imagine, but actually it's what I've said before is possible, which is that there's an art of deception here. This is art of war. You know, look weak when you are really strong or gathering strength. I think there might be something to it, but I'm going to let him speak for himself. Nick No is going to be our guest on tomorrow's show. It's going to be a big show. We're going to have him on for the full 2 hours. That tells you how big it is. Usually I bring guests on, we do an hour, and that's it. But tomorrow he's going to come on, and I think we're going to start around the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and then we're going to move into modern day inside baseball, possibly, depending on what you believe, on what's happening behind the scenes and everything in between. So we're looking forward to having him on the show, and we're looking forward to having JD on later. So that's a programming note. You're going to want to tune in for that. That's all I'm going to say. If I were you, that would be one show I would not miss. So tell your friends, share the links, and it's going to be fascinating for me just as well as all of you, because I don't even know what we're going to get into. But let's just put it this way. There's going to be a lot of rabbit holes. It's going to be a tinfoil Friday, not to be forgotten. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's texting in. If you want to text, the number is 877-536-1360. You can text or call if you have anything you want to contribute to the show today. But I guess we'll just continue. Before we do that, though, I want to thank one of the sponsors of the show. You guys know it's thefreedompeople.org. If you guys haven't tried them out yet, not sure what you're waiting for. It's as easy as going to their website, clicking a couple buttons, setting up a phone call, and they'll give you a free 30-minute consultation. What they do is they help you legally and lawfully reduce your exposure to the tax man and other bureaucratic entities by helping you do things like set up an express trust or a private membership association. All of these things can help you, and the consultation is free. You just go to the website. That's thefreedompeople.org. Make sure you put the in front of Freedom People, THE, freedompeople.org, and hit the button that says schedule a call. You'll pick a time, pick a date, or pick a date and a time, and you'll set up the call. Then they'll give you a free 30-minute consultation just to walk through how they can help you, what they do, what it means to do things like set up an express trust for you, your family, your business. Because, look, we got to look out for one another. We got to protect one another. So when you do that, make sure you mention my name. Say, hey, Craig sent me. Just Informed Talk sent me. They'll know who I am, and they'll know what to do. So thanks to them for sponsoring the show. Now, and if you want to sponsor the show, anyone out there, feel free. You can call. Well, you can text 877-536-1360 with any information as far as you wanting to sponsor the show. I'd love to work with any businesses here locally in the Front Range, Colorado, Fort Collins, Greeley, wherever you are, even up into Cheyenne. I know we get our signal up there, and over in Nebraska, wherever you're at. If you want to get your business out there and you want to support this channel and keep it alive because you believe in it, shoot a text to 877-536-1360, or you can just email me, and I'll give out my business email is justinformedradio@gmail.com. That's just informed, ED, past tense, justinformedradio@gmail.com. if you want to become a sponsor of the show, because, look, your support is what's going to keep this channel alive. I can't do it without you. And we can help uplift one another, and I think that's a powerful way to do it. So, with that being said, we're listening to clips. Let's just keep going. We heard Vivek go scorched earth on Nikki Haley, and then Chris Christie gets triggered and starts shouting at him and telling him to shut up, and then starts white knighting for Nikki Haley, which I love, because this is the embodiment of how weak these people are, because they're all talk and no action. They're just a bunch of blowhards that have no substance. These are jellyfish. They're spineless, like Chris Christie is. He feels protected, so he can speak the way he does. But, I mean, you get these people one-on-one, and I mean that in the most non-confrontational sense, just speaking to them one-on-one, and these people are as weak and as soft as you could ever imagine. They're essentially, like I said, jellyfish, spineless. But here he is going after Vivek when Vivek called out Nikki Haley, and it's rather hilarious exchange. Go ahead and listen.
It's right there. They're playing her like the puppet master.
Hold on. Let me just say something here. You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen. Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no
That's
reasonable.
not my deal. That's not my deal,
yes,
Chris.
It's exactly what you
I'll
said.
describe
You
my
do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't
I'll
interrupt
tell
me.
you
I
what the
didn't
deal is.
interrupt you. Okay? You
Tell
say
them
this.
about how you
You
want to
do
send those
this.
kids to die.
You
Go
do
for
this
it.
at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you out on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to
I'll
say
tell you
what?
exactly what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this
now
is
look.
This is
and
now
here's
this man is spewing. This man is spewing nonsense.
Let me tell you something. This is the fourth debate. The fourth debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America. So shut up for a little while.
I'm going to respond to that.
When we come back, I'll play the rest of that clip, because it is rather hilarious to see it come to its conclusion. And this is what we're dealing with, though, folks. These people are not who they pretend to be. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Form Talk Radio. We'll be back after the break.
Wanna know what you do, and then I don't think you know, but I know.
Your version of
We're going to let you respond to that. We're going to let you respond to that. Let him finish.
I want to say something else. We're now 25 minutes into this debate, and he has insulted Nikki Haley's basic intelligence. Not her positions, her basic intelligence. She doesn't know regions. She wouldn't be able to find something on a map that his 3-year-old could find. Look, if you want to disagree on issues, that's fine. And Nikki and I disagree on some issues. But I'll tell you this, I've known her for 12 years, which is longer than he's even started to vote in a Republican primary. And while we disagree about some issues and we disagree about who should be president of the United States, what we don't disagree on is this is a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting
So
her.
I'm going to take this. I'm going to take several times over.
Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. There was the end of the clip, Chris Christie white knighting for Nikki Haley. If you don't know the term white knighting, it's kind of become popular in memetic culture, a.k.a. internet memes, a.k.a. satirical posts online. A behavior common amongst the soy boys and wojacks, or soy jacks, which if you don't get that reference, it's getting a little bit into the internet lore that it is. But essentially the weak men who are creating hard times right now, who drink and consume large amounts of soy products. The fact of the matter is that when we watch Chris Christie go after Vivek, as he's white knighting, it's a term that just means what you'd imagine it means. Standing up for women who don't respect you because you think that if you do, it will somehow win you favor. I think he's obviously vying for a possible vice presidency role if Nikki Haley became the nominee, which is not going to happen. But never say never, right? They said that about Trump, and we saw how that turned out. And it looked like Trump was going to win the 2020 election, and they stole it. But I will say this, that watching him go there is rather hilarious and quite telling, to say the least. So we have Vivek going scorched earth on Nikki Haley, Chris Christie white knighting for her. And then we have this clip, which I thought was awesome. Go ahead and listen to this.
We learned three things right there. First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York. Yeah. So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race. When it comes to Nikki, I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go die in somebody else's war, you better, excuse me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't heard the time when you aren't
and we're going to be done. So listen up to this. If these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction things.
Yeah, I think it is intellectual fraud. I appreciate that Vivek calls that out. We have, interesting enough, we have a texter from the 505 texting in, obnoxious blowhard. Is that Chris Crispy describing himself? Yeah, I think so. Thanks for the text. There's more. Trust me. That was kind of his response. That was the jabs they did back and forth. Vivek Ramaswamy also shredded the Biden administration, calling it fascist, calling Nikki Haley a fascist, and describing how Nikki Haley wants to take away your freedom of speech and anonymity. Oh, let's see. What else? I think this is a different clip here. I have a lot of these clips out of order, so let's just listen to this one. This is another Vivek. And again, for those of you just joining us, we're going through highlights from the debate last night, the GOP, the final GOP presidential debate, which, again, many people may ask, why are you only playing clips of Vivek Ramaswamy? And that's because, first of all of the GOP candidates, aside from Ramaswamy, are giving you focus group produced, politically consulted, canned responses. And if you want to hear those responses, then by all means, go turn on Fox News today. They'll be running them as a rerun from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can rest assured of that because the establishment hates Vivek just as much as they hate Trump. And they're going to prop up Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis and Chris Krispy Kremes as heavily as they can for obvious reasons. The anyone but Trump brigade over there at the NEOCON Uniparty establishment, Rhino factory of Fox News, they're not going to play these Vivek Ramaswamy clips, which is why I'm playing them. So let's listen.
I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there. The donors right there that are playing her like the puppet.
Okay.
So that was the thing that capped off or started that whole fiasco between Chris Christie and Ramaswamy, where Chris Christie then goes into his White Knight routine with Nikki Haley. And if you could see it, it doesn't translate to radio well, but if you could just see the look on Nikki Haley's face when he challenges her to name 3 regions, territories in Ukraine that they want to defend. The blank stare that comes over her face, as he points out, is priceless, because it's completely indicative of who these people are. They are the biggest frauds there ever was. These are intellectual frauds. They're going to get up there and say your kids need to go die in this war. Okay, so where are they going to die specifically? I don't know. Ukraine? We'll let Zelensky decide. He seems like a reasonable, trustworthy man. Oh, gosh. It's funny, but it's also sad and unfortunate. Stay tuned. You know, we have a lot more to cover. Second hour. We're going to be joined by JD from Swamp Fight. Very, very, very good content coming up here. More clips, more content, more news. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Form Talk Radio. We'll be back after the break.
Sometimes I feel the fear of uncertainty.
Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We're going to be joined in the second hour by our good friend JD Plorable from Swamp Fight. Looking forward to that. He's actually going to be calling in. I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the studio today, but that's fine. We're going to have him on nonetheless. Now, we have more clips to get through here. I have another one. Vivek explaining who Nikki Haley is. I don't know. Again, these clips are kind of out of order, so if it's a repeat, we'll just go to the next one. Listen to this.
That question of authenticity. And I think that's deeper here. We were just talking about the trans issue. This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life. Identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic. It's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party, and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, and I'm sick and tired of the double standards the people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's wrong. As a matter of fact, I think he's spot on correct how Nikki Haley is this identity politic play at getting to suburban housewives and the girl boss vote, because that's all they have. They don't have substance. They don't have policy. They don't have a grassroots connection or grassroots support system. They only have big donors, political consultants, focus groups, and K Street lobbyist money and the major PACs. That's all they have. So, of course, they're going to march out their woman and go on the, like he said, the woke Dylan Mulvaney talking points of, I'm just a, boss in heels. Oh, no, I'm girl boss, girl power. It's like, this is antithetical to what our country should be, how our country should be ran. But obviously, this is woke progressivism seeping into the conservative movement just as much as it has overtaken the liberal side of the equation. So when I watch it, when I see it, when I watch it all come together, I agree. Vivek points out that her family income tripled in her first 5 years after her first election in 2004. She took hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts while governor. She was awarded multi-million-dollar state contracts to companies who lent her access to private jets. She gave Boeing a $120 million incentive in South Carolina, only to join their board after the fact. She made $8 million in her post-UN life through her family's military contracting business. I mean, she is Dick Cheney in heels, folks. She collected corporate stock options from boards while running for president. She is corrupt. Now, everything that I outlined there, you can go fact check for yourself, but let's be very clear. If you want Dick Cheney in heels, if you want Bush a 3.0, if you want NEOCON establishment, RINOs running this country, vote for these people. But if you don't, stand up against it. Because I guarantee you that our enemies would love nothing more than these people to be in control again. Because they're the ones doing the backroom deals with Russians. They're the ones doing the backdoor deals with China. They're the ones selling this country out to the globalists. They're the ones behind it all, and that's why they want you to go back to sleep. Stay tuned. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and we're joined in the second hour by a very special guest. He's been a friend of the show, a friend of mine, and I can tell you this, he's got a show here on 1360 KHNC that you guys need to check out if you haven't already. It is Jay Deplorable from Swamp Fight. JD, are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Craig. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm kind of missing my compadre here. You're not with me in studio, but you're with me in heart, and you're with me on the phone, so that works too, right?
Yeah. However, we have to do it, right?
Absolutely. So that's, if people are wondering why it sounds a little different than normal, that's just what it is today. JD, we've been talking a lot here today about the debate that took place last night. I begrudgingly watched it last night. I haven't really watched any of the other debates because it's kind of an unimportant factor to me what these people think. All you're getting, JD, besides Vivek Ramaswamy, are canned, political consultant created responses that are focus grouped and worked thoroughly through a number of different filters before they're then prepackaged and given to the American people. Vivek, on the other hand, I like because he speaks from the heart and he speaks truth about what and who these people are. But let's just start there. What was your take on, did you watch last night's debate? What's your take on it? Who do you think did well? Who do you think did bad? What is your overall take on it?
Well, I didn't watch it in the whole thing live or anything. Just like the last couple of them, I basically watched a highlight reel, which, like a 20-minute highlight reel. I just can't bring myself to watch it without Trump being there on stage, and I really wish he would be, But and I think he will be, you know, in 2024. I mean, he has to be, really. But my take on it, it was no different than the last one, for sure. I mean, you had Chris Christie. Basically all it was yet again personal jabs dominating the debate. You know, name-calling pretty much took center stage again.
Yeah, I agree. And the sad part is that, you know, with a guy like Chris Christie, I'm not really, you know, nobody's really impressed with him.
I can't stand him.
No, and I think he's up there for a very strategic reason, that they have to have somebody to represent the never-Trumpers out there, the NEOCON establishment RINOs, and he is their voice to a large degree, no pun intended. And he is honestly somebody who, you know, when I listen to him speak, I see, like I've said, a jellyfish, a spineless coward who is emboldened by the fact that he has people standing behind him. It reminds me, JD, of that comment when Chuck Schumer talked about Trump and said the intelligence community has 7 ways from Sunday to get back at you if you cross them. And Chris Christie is the embodiment of that kind of cry-bully weakling who is tough because he knows that he's being backed up by very nefarious things, if you will.
Well, he's got nothing to lose, right? And as far as I'm concerned, Chris Christie, I'll tell you what he is. He is nothing more than a 20 years younger version of Joe Biden. That's exactly what Chris Christie is.
That's a very accurate way of putting it. And you know what's funny about that is that just shows you how much of a uniparty it really is, that a guy like Chris Christie is no different. I mean, the thing he grasps, it's like he reminds me of one of those high school quarterbacks, right? He went to the state championship game but didn't win, and then for the rest of his life, he tells you about how good he was in high school, and that's like really all he has, because he keeps his big claim to fame. I was the U.S. attorney after 9/11. It's like, yeah, so what, pal? Yeah. That was 20 plus years ago. You know, it's like, what have you done since then? Oh, nothing? Oh, perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah, he's done nothing, and you know, 3 of those 4 candidates represent everything that we stand against, everything that we and the listeners are fighting every day, trying to get our country back, trying to get the America back that we grew up in. And 3 of these candidates, Christie, DeSantis, Haley, represent 3 different factions of what we stand against. Nikki Haley, the military industrial complex. You've got DeSantis, which is just a total rhino. And then you've got Chris Christie, who can't think for himself. He's totally controlled, just like Joe Biden.
I mean, that's I couldn't have put it better myself, actually. And you know what's funny to me? I have a clip here, JD, I want to share, and I think it tells you so much about who these people are. And I was saying in my show today, so you probably maybe have heard earlier in the show, you know, I'm only playing clips of Vivek Ramaswamy mainly from last night's debate, because I said if you want to hear clips from Haley or Christie or DeSantis, just go flip on Fox News, because they're going to be running that all day. Like, you're not going to hear Vivek say 2 words. You're going to hear DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie. So it's like, if you want that, go listen to the gatekeepers over at Fox News, and the airheads over there tell you how much they tell you exactly how much you're allowed to know, like Chris Cuomo with WikiLeaks saying, you can't look at these emails, but we can because we're the media.
Right.
And
Vivek, to me, I think Vivek is like the GOP side's RFK Jr. kind of, you know? I mean, he's
definitely. That's a good.
He's a little bit of an outsider there for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good framing. But the reason I'm playing clips from him is because, first of all, they're not going to be playing these clips, I think, predominantly. They may play a few, but they're not going to give you the context and give you the full context, and especially not clips like this where I'm going to play you here. Vivek talks about some pretty big topics here that I think he basically calls out the entire stage. Like you said, the three people on the stage who don't represent people like us, the working class, hardworking average Americans. Vivek basically says truths that they can't say and admit, and I'm going to play this clip and get your thoughts on it. It's quite telling, and it tells you everything you need to know. Listen to this.
I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11? That the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform. That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech. That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who were licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking him and criticizing him when it's convenient.
What do you think of that, JD?
Well, I mean, they definitely don't want to listen to him, the moderators. They're, all night long cutting him off and trying to cut him off. But I'll tell you what it sounds like to me. We've talked about this before, but it's looking more and more like that. Maybe. I'm not saying that Vivek doesn't think he can win. I'm not saying that Vivek is thinking of anything other than running, but it really sounds like almost like he's doing an oral resume for Trump's VP. I mean, doesn't it?
I agree. I've said that before. I think it's a reasonable thing to see. I actually even said it in the beginning of the show that it almost looked like he was maybe vying for that position, leaving himself open to that with DeSantis, which is crazy, but we'll talk about that and much more when we come back. You're listening to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, joined with Jay Deplorable from Swamp Fight. Stay tuned.
This is a man's world. Ow! But it wouldn't be nothing. Got a woman or a girl.
Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and we're joined by a very special guest. You know him. He's a friend of the show, Jay Deplorable from Swamp Fight. So, JD, before the break, we were talking about how Ramaswamy may be auditioning for a vice president role position. And I guess my observation last night, because I did, as I said, begrudgingly watch the entirety of that debate, was that what I noticed and picked up on immediately was that even though he threw a few jabs at Ron DeSantis, he also didn't really go too hard against him in the overall sum of the debate. And I think he even threw him a few compliments because in his mind, obviously where he stands in the polls, I don't know that he really has a chance at becoming the viable nominee. Everyone on that stage knows that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. Chris Christie came out and said, basically we are going to have to vote for somebody on that stage because Trump is a criminal and he's going to be a felon and he's not going to be eligible. So I think perhaps Vivek also is not only positioning himself and kind of auditioning for the position of VP with Trump, but also kind of putting himself in a position where Ron DeSantis may choose him if, like we saw in 2020, some black swan event or something happens that we don't suspect where somehow, some way Trump isn't the nominee and Ron DeSantis is. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that he's extremely intelligent, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's thinking of all the different angles and things. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I will say that if he is thinking, I mean, I don't see him and Trump being able to work together because they're just too much alike. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they would be great. I don't know. But it just seems like they would be, they're both just so headstrong. I'm not sure that, how that would work.
It would work like this. The vice president has to play second fiddle to the president every time in every way. I think that if Trump's trying to surround himself with people who he can trust, but that's Vivek would be a great choice. But I also think Trump doesn't want to surround himself with people who are going to challenge him that hard.
Right.
And I think that's the problem with Trump. I'm not here people always accuse us, JD, and particularly what I find, people who support Trump get accused often of idolizing Trump and saying he's infallible and he's perfect. No, nobody here, I don't think, I can speak for us, I would say, thinks that Trump is this perfect, infallible character, that he doesn't have character flaws that, even he recognizes, and I think he needs to work on to a degree. But if we're looking at the field, right, and I'm not even saying he's the best or the worst, I'm saying that he is obviously the best candidate because of many reasons, one of which is that he stands for everything that the people of this country truly believe and want. And beyond that, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If we let them get away with this, JD, if we let them basically politically assassinate someone using lawfare and a corrupt justice system and a corrupt FBI, and we don't give Trump the term that he rightfully won in 2020, then this is just opening the door, opening Pandora's box and saying it's a free-for-all. The globalists have won. Here's our country. Here it is on a silver platter. That to me is the defeatism that will get this country annihilated if we back down now and walk away from the Make America Great Again movement. And
we can't back down. If we resign to what they are trying to implement and force us into, if we resign to that fact, we will never, well, at least not in our lifetimes, get another chance to try and repair the damage that Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and the left, the Socialist Democrat Party of America. We will never get a chance again in our lifetime. And I just want to say, too, Ramaswamy, he's obviously very intelligent, and I think that he is a very forward-thinking man. So it might work with him and Trump. Maybe he's thinking, well, when Trump's done, then I'll get my chance.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that would be the idea for pretty much everybody on that stage, because they all know they're not getting the nomination here.
Especially him, though.
Yeah, but no, especially him with regard to
more that way.
He could be a person who I could see taking the reins of MAGA once Trump is done, right?
Yes.
So I understand that, but for me, I've looked at the field, I've looked at everyone out there, and I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a nice woman. I like her father. I think they're nice people, but
I love her.
Yeah, and it's on a personal level. I think she's very nice, and I actually think she's great as governor of Arkansas. I think that's good. I think she should, and she says a lot of great things, and I like her. But do I think that her and her father are too closely tied to the swamp for me to really trust them? Yeah. That's the problem, JD. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it's on me. So I'm not going to allow these people to keep lulling me into, these false senses of security like they did with DeSantis, where they rolled him out as a MAGA guy. He had his kid in a MAGA onesie. He was running ads saying how much he loves Trump. He was impersonating. He basically mimicking all of Trump's mannerisms, his speech pattern and cadence. And then, we get this Trojan horse, basically, and that is, to me, on a personal level, indicative of how this establishment operates. And I love, like I said, Sarah Huckabee, and I think she's great as governor of Arkansas, and I think her father's a very nice man, and I love their pro-faith and they're strong on certain things, and I appreciate that, But do I think she's a viable candidate for vice president? No. I just, they're too close to that machine.
Yeah, maybe not yet, but I mean, if there's anyone out there who's been inside the world of politics for an extended time, like the Huckabees, okay, let's just say the Huckabees, who I think a lot of, and if there's anybody out there who's had political ties for a long time, who may not go the way that those establishment people want them to go if they're elected to a certain office or whatever, I think it would be for sure Sarah Huckabee. I think that she's a lot less apt to go that way than her dad, but I also think that she needs a lot more experience before she moves on to anything other than what she's already doing. And she's doing a great job.
Yeah, it's like I'm one of those people who's like, you know what? If they're doing well, keep them where they're at. We don't need and that's the same kind of for Ron DeSantis, even though I don't trust him. It's like, if you want to be the governor of Florida, I don't live in Florida, JD, so I'm not going to speak to Florida. Florida can choose who they want to run their state. Obviously, it's hard to talk about state governorship, gubernatorial leadership when you have a government ran like we do here in Colorado with the LGBTQ Rainbow Guard in control here. But the fact of the matter is that with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I appreciate her. I appreciate her father. They're she's fine. Do your thing over there. Same thing with Kristi Noem. No offense to her. She's a nice woman. I think she's doing fine for South Dakota or North Dakota. I think it's South Dakota, right? Or North. I don't know. One of the two. Doesn't matter. The point is they can do what they do over there. I want outsiders, JD. I want people who, like Vivek, I want people like Tucker. Tucker would be a great VP. I think Tucker could take over the movement in a way that would be similar to, if not more, effective than what Trump did. What do you think of that?
I think he could do whatever he wants, but I don't think he ever would, because he's got it made doing what he does. He loves what he does. And he, why, I'm just speaking for myself, why I wouldn't want to go into anything, more into anything political any more than what I was already doing with his shows and things like that. Yeah, obviously, the Trump supporting people out there, like myself, like you, I think you do anyway. I love Tucker Carlson because he speaks the truth and he's not afraid to say what he wants to say. But I'm not sure that he would want to take it any further. And one last thing I want to say, that I kind of look at these candidates through like a pair of Missouri goggles, where my thought on it, like with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, any of those people is show me. And that's why I think she needs more experience.
No, I think, so I think we're kind of agreeing here, and I think that, you're right to right to a point with Tucker, because he obviously has the good life. There's no incentive, really. It would only be downside and negative for him to get involved with politics in that regard. So I could see that would be a reason for him to stay away from it. But at the same time, watching Tucker's evolution, especially since he got canned from Fox News, and watching his evolution, because there were a lot of things that I disagreed with Tucker maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. As I watched him evolve and become more strong in his faith, more strong in his adherence to the truth no matter what, more strong in his belief in what is right and wrong, his general sense of morality and doing the right thing. That, to me, has been an evolution that I've seen similarly within myself over the last decade or so. You know, going from a guy who I'll admit, as a young, naive, and stupid, moronic idiot in college, I voted for Obama twice because I thought I knew everything, JD. I was one of those idiot kids who goes to the, you know, liberal arts college who, you know, is indoctrinated by a system that wants to exploit you. Now, I wasn't like some Marxist or anything. I wasn't even like politically involved, really. I just was swept up in this notion that, you know, we got to do good for everyone. And it's, you know, this lie they sell that everything the left does is for the greater good. And that, you know, it's all about, you know, feelings and, you know, we got to help and all these lies that they sell. And I got swept up in that. And I was an idiot. And I'll put my hand up when I'm wrong. My hand goes straight up in the air, JD. I was wrong. I was dumb. A lot of people out there.
Well, we've all been there, bud.
That's what I mean. Like,
you're swept up in the media's propaganda and their lies, like so many Americans are today.
Yeah, and the thing I'm saying is, I guess the point I'm making is that watching Tucker's kind of evolution now, we're like today, JD, is going to be an amazing day, which I'm sure the listeners will be beneficiaries of this weekend when we play Tucker on the air here. I don't know exactly what time we do. I know we play him on the weekends. He's having an interview today with Alex Jones, a long form.
2 p.m. on Saturdays.
Yeah, and I hope you'll pick it up. We may pick that up this weekend or next weekend, but Tucker's doing a long form sit down with Alex Jones, and you know, we know that Tucker and Alex have been friends kind of behind the scenes. I think they've had conversations before. This is not like some revolutionary, groundbreaking thing. But what I'm saying about Tucker is that watching his evolution and seeing my own and seeing a lot of people I know who've evolved from one position to another over time, who honestly, what happens is I think that if you care about the truth, if you care about honesty, if you care about integrity, morality, decency, then you can't help but become conservative because unless you're completely uninformed and you're of this like virtue signal mindset where you think you're doing this great virtuistic, altruistic thing and you're really not. But you can't help but come to that side, especially with me and you know, coming to Christ and finding my redemption through him. It's really something that I respect, and I want more of that. I want more people like that because there's almost like a centrist mentality to it where you're kind of able to see both sides. And I think that, again, we look at the political spectrum, and it's been blown out so far, particularly to the left, that people who are moderate are, you know, seen as far right now. And it's insane, you know? Like what was once normal, like decency in this country, like, hey, maybe we don't want drag queens stripping in front of 8-year-olds, JD. You know what I mean?
I think that it's funny how many Democrats out there are far more conservative than they will admit.
Oh, they can admit it would be political suicide for them, or it would be, you know, it would be it would tear their family apart, or it would tear their relationship with their children apart, or whatever. And that's dangerous, and that's what these people want. They want that fear. It's an extortion. Stay tuned, though. We're joined by J.D. Plorable of Swamp Fight. It airs every Saturday and Sunday at noon and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. We'll be back after a short commercial break. You're listening to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. Stay tuned.
9/11, the Podesta emails, Epstein Island, Hunter's laptop, the 2020 stolen election. What truths are they hiding? Find out this and more on Just Informed Talk Radio, weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m.
Hi, this is Craig James from Just Informed Talk Radio, and I'm here to tell you about My Kind CBD products. I have been using these products myself, and I can tell you this is the highest quality CBD product I've ever used in my life. My Kind CBD products are 100% THC-free, locally sourced from Colorado hemp farmers, and they're organic. And if you want, you can give them a shot today by going to 1360khnc.com/shop. And when you do, make sure you try out everything from the sunscreen sunscreen, to the lotion, to the salve, to the retinol cream, to the tinctures, to the cocoa, to the coffee, to the tea, everything in between. And make sure you try out the pet products as well. They have pet shampoo and pet tincture. You're not going to be disappointed. These products are white labeled and sold in high-end stores and boutique salons for 2, 3, and 4 times the price you're going to be paying at 1360khnc.com/shop, straight from the manufacturer. So go there and buy your products today, and I know you're going to become a repeat customer just like me. Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, joined by my good friend, host of the show Swamp Fight, J.D. Plorable. J.D., over the break, we have a lot more to talk about, and I want to get into it, but I want to tell everybody, J.D. I can't speak, but that's okay. I want to tell everybody about My Kind CBD because they are a sponsor of Just Form Talk Radio, and they have the best products. But, JD, what do you think of My Kind CBD products? Because I have a few things I want to say about them, but you tell me your thoughts first.
Well, I love them, and I love them because they're great products and they actually work. And for many years, members of my family were trying different, CBD products and are very familiar with those products over the years for different things, different ailments and what have you. The thing that's different about My Kind is the quality. That's the big thing. It's like anything, whether you're talking about shampoo or you're talking about this. There is such a wide spectrum of quality. These guys, and I know them personally, they go all out. They're just like it has to be the best or they're not happy. And that's the difference with their products. And the thing is that if you look out there, and people who use CBD products, they'll understand what I'm saying. They've used products in the past and may still have some of them where they're not as good a quality as what My Kind is, but it costs so much more money. And that's another thing. Not only are they the absolute best quality products, but they're priced more than fair. And I love the guys there. I love the company. I love their products, and their products work. That tincture of theirs is an amazing product. Their new sunscreen product is the only sunscreen I've ever used that I've continued using because I just hated it so much. Their stuff works, Craig.
I agree, and thanks to them for sponsoring the show. But honestly, we get the best prices, and it's the highest quality. Everything JDC said is true. I've used other products, other CBD products. A lot of times they just slap CBD on the label, and they think, some sucker will buy this stuff. And that's like the opposite of the attitude that I know Jerry and My Kind took when they developed these products. I had a long conversation with him about how they developed it, how painstakingly it was, whether it was developing the coffee by basically hand selecting the roasts and testing, thousands of cups of coffee to make sure that they got the best blend, or the tea or the cider or the tinctures and how they were developed, how they have such high standards for the quality of ingredients they use, the sunscreen, even the pet products, JD. Speaking of which, I need to pick up another bottle of that pet tincture for, my pup, and the pet shampoo and all this stuff. Like, this stuff is so high quality, and we're going to get you the best price. So how do you get it? You go to 1360khnc.com/shop. And, JD, I know these are going to make great Christmas gifts, too, for family members and friends.
They're great, and they're great stocking stuffers, too,
Exactly.
You couldn't give them a better product that they will be more happy with.
Yeah, your family and friends are going to thank you when you give them this for sure. And it fit, a lot of their products are small enough where, like you said, you could buy a few of them and throw them in the stockings, and then there you go. You got the stocking full right there. So go to 1360khnc.com/shop And make sure when you check out, there's a little comment box. If you could just put Craig or Just Informed Talk sent you, that helped me out. More importantly, these products are going to help you out. And don't forget to pick them up. Order them now so you can get them before Christmas. JD, we're going to have to figure out what the dates are on all this, like make sure that they can get – I think if they order it now, they'll definitely get it before Christmas, right?
Yeah, at this point, yeah. I don't know when that cutoff is, but we're not there yet.
All right, well, we'll get that information, and hopefully we'll share that with the audience here. But, look, try them out. You're not going to be disappointed. Even if you just want to get it for yourself and try it, then decide if you want to give it as a Christmas gift. I'm just going to tell you, me and JD, you know, obviously we have a bit of a bias maybe, but I honestly, if it, you know me, JD, I'm a pretty honest guy. Like, if it was a bad product, I wouldn't work with them. I wouldn't support it. I wouldn't promote it because I don't, you know, I'll take that hit, you know, because I don't want to give people stuff that's going to hurt them or that I don't like or use myself.
KHNC.
No, and that's the thing, and that's what I love about this place here, KHNC, the family atmosphere, and how it is like a family, and that not only are we kind of like a family here, all of us, you know, together who make the content and the productions, but I think that the listeners kind of understand that they're a part of our like extended family, and we want to take care of them just as much as we want to, you know, look after each other.
I want to say, too, that the owner of the station, Joe, he is so hands-on when it comes to any of the products, you know, that we put out there. And not only that, but the advertisers, just the advertisers. If, you know, they have to be upstanding and they have to be in line with what we and our listeners believe. Or, you know, he just won't allow it.
When I first sat down and took meetings with you guys, I knew off the bat that was, you know, how this place was ran, and that made me feel great because I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of an organization that's ran that way. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to you. Thanks to all the people out there who listen, everybody else who's making content and productions here. It's really a blessing. So, look, go to 1360khnc.com/shop. Get your My Kind CBD products today. Get them for stocking stuffers, gifts for your family. They're going to love it. You're going to love it. And make sure when you check out, you let them know I sent you in the comment box. Just put Craig or Just Informed Talk Radio. That helps me out. Now, JD, we got some other stuff we're going to get into here today. And I just want to play this clip and get your comment on it. I think you'll like this one.
Issue, though, because the media has been focused on this and attacking you under no circumstances. You are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
for? He's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's not retribution.
I'm going to be, you know, he keeps... We love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator.
So that sounds to me like you're going back to the policies when you were president.
That's
all right.
Exactly.
JD,
yeah,
what do you think?
Funny. It's so funny because, and I've listened to that. I listened to it. I was watching it live, and I talked about it on my show last night and I actually played some of that, come to think of it. But the funny thing is that Hannity kept trying to get Trump to answer that question, you know, a certain way the media and the left wants it answered, and he wasn't having it. He knew exactly that was coming, but he wasn't having any of it.
That's because, look, what the people want right now, they don't want fluffy, you know, scripted, canned talking points. They want somebody who's going to take action. These criminals have gone way overboard, and whatever, you know, they can call Trump a dictator. They can call him whatever they want. The truth is that this type of severe corruption and criminality and lawlessness has to be met with severe consequences and punishment. And I don't really care how Trump does it, but he needs to do it. And he's probably he is honestly the only person who has come out and said he will do something about it. So, look, they can call it what they want, but on day one, when we get Trump back in that White House, there's going to be hell to pay for these people, JD. Mark my words.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to say, "Oh no, I'm not going to to investigate Fauci or Hillary or, Comey or any of these people. He's not going to say that.
I say on day one, round them all up, put them all in jail, and you know what? That's what we need, JD. We don't need any of this, I could use a term that I'm not going to use, but, blank footing around, if you know what I mean.
Well, at least a fair investigation.
Well, I mean, we've had the investigations. We know what they did. Let's get some action. Let's get some indictments. They're not afraid to indict him. Let's indict them. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk about that and much more. You're listening to Just Form Talk Radio with our good friend J.D. Plorable from Swamp Fight. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, joined by my good friend, J.D. Plorable from Swamp Fight, which airs every Wednesday at 5 p.m., Saturday and Sunday at noon, here on 1360 KHNC. J.D., let's kind of, unpack it, right? Because we just listened to the clip, Trump saying he won't be a dictator except for day one, kind of a tongue-in-cheek jab at all of these criminals who think they can get away with these crimes with impunity and then call Trump a dictator, and then that psyop they're going to run is going to be effective. And I want to point out where this all came from, JD. So this all stems from a Washington Post article that was published the day before, I believe, that interview took place with Hannity, that town hall show they did. And you want to hear the truth about what this article said? Listen to this. So the Washington Post ran this piece, and it was authored by a man named Robert Kagan, JD. And you go, well, who is Robert Kagan, right? Like, I don't know. That sounds like a familiar name. I think I've heard it before. Well, if you think you've heard it before, folks, it's because he just so happens to be the husband of a State Department official who goes by the name of Victoria Nuland. Now, if you know who Victoria Nuland is, you know that she was deeply involved in peddling the Steele dossier, which was the framing of Trump by the corrupt DNC and FBI and Justice Department during his entire term as president. Now, the article published by Robert Kagan was titled, quote, "A Trump dictatorship is increasingly inevitable. We should stop pretending." Now, JD, let me give you a quote from this article and get your take on it. This, according to the article, which many people are saying this article was a clear suggestion that they should try to assassinate President Trump, by the way. The article says, quote, "Let's stop the wishful thinking and face the stark reality. There is a clear path toward dictatorship in the United States, and it is getting shorter every day. In 13 weeks, Donald Trump will have locked up the Republican nomination. Are we going to do anything about it? To shift metaphors, if we thought there was 50% chance of an asteroid crashing into North America a year from now, would we be content to hope that it wouldn't, or would we be taking every conceivable measure to try to stop it, including many things that might not work, but that, given the magnitude of the crisis, must be tried anyway?" Now, for anybody who's reading this, JD, like myself and many other Americans, this sounds like a green light to assassinate Donald Trump being published in the Washington Post by the husband of the woman who helped manufacture and push the Steele dossier, which was meant to frame Trump. And she's also been the architect of the Ukraine war and everything else. So one of the architects. So you tell me what you think, JD. Am I reading too much into this, or is it exactly what it seems prima facie?
No. It is exactly what you're seeing. And that was probably the most honest article published in the Washington Compost in 50 years. And that's no kidding. That's no kidding. And it was full of everything that they do, the left. I mean, it was this thing about Trump being a dictator and all that. It's just another one of their fear tactics. But absolutely, without a doubt, you're reading into this exactly the point that this guy was trying to make. And this has been going on for years, really, if you think back. I mean, look at what stupid Johnny Depp said about him, a few years back. Like, well, it's been a long time since, it's been a long time since we've had a president assassinated, You think they're not thinking about that stuff? Of course they are. They'll do anything to stay in control of this country.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I would go further to say that what we've seen is, along with this, they're calling him a dictator, which is basically trying to greenlight an assassination on him. But they've also gone, and I've talked about this before on the show, where they go on these rants about how he's Hitler, right? And you know, JD, just as well as I do, what the old adage is, right? If I had a time machine, what would I do? I'd go back and I'd take out Hitler, right? It's like a common thing. Everybody says, it's like, oh, yeah, if I had a time machine, I'd do the right thing and go take out Hitler. Well, if you call somebody Hitler on national television and say he is essentially the embodiment of a modern Hitler, you're calling for his assassination. JD, am I right or wrong?
What do you think's going to happen if you convince someone that this other person is Satan? If you convince someone that, hey, that person is Satan.
Well, if you do that, JD, the Democrats might hold on. JD, if you do that, the Democrats might worship him.
Well, yeah, they'd probably make of them their nominee is what they would do.
If that was the narrative, I think the Democrats would have an altar of Trump up in every household at this point. But no, I mean, right. I understand what you're saying, though. It's true. It couldn't be more true. And others have pointed out, you have...
It's dangerous, bud.
Yeah, and it's not just that. The Atlantic, New York Times, they're also publishing stories about a Trump dictatorship. The Times suggesting that Trump second term would most likely be more radical than the first. J.D. Vance, the Republican out of Ohio, said all of these articles, this is a quote, all of these articles calling Trump a dictator are about one thing, legitimizing illegal and violent conduct as we get closer to the election. And that's my biggest concern, JD, is that they're trying to normalize what we saw in 2020. They're trying to bring that back. The Black Lives Matter rioting, the Antifa violence, they want that on a higher level and a higher scale. And I'm not going to be surprised, JD, if we start having some sort of incident with a cop and somebody who happens to be black or something to that regard, and it's going to get magnified by the fake news media, blown out of proportion, picked up on every station, and then you're going to have these race riots again, and you're going to have Antifa back in the streets, saying they need to take down capitalism. That's my biggest concern, JD, at the moment.
Well, I mean, you're talking about exactly what we've already been witnessing over the past 10 years. So they're not going to stop now, and they're in panic mode. Once we get past the first of the year, they're already in panic mode. But as we like the guy said, as we get closer to the election, I mean, quite frankly, they're running out of ideas. They've tried everything just about, and none of it is going to work.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here, we got a text here from the 970 saying, Craig, Trump needs to say that the Democrats are the party of dictators and totalitarianism with their lawlessness. Quote, I am going to return the nation to the rule of law. That's from our good friend Jenny. Yes, Jenny, you are right. That is what Trump needs to say because, in fact, it is true.
Great point, and it is true. Perfectly true.
Very, very good. Thanks for that contribution. When we come back, we have our God's Grace Spirit saying we're going to give you guys some hope to take with you today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to Craig James on Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm joined by my good friend J.D. Portable from Swamp Fight every Wednesday at 5, Saturday and Sunday at noon. Check him out. Check out this show Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, joined by my good friend, J. Deplorable from Swamp Fight. So, JD, you know we do our God's Grace is Greater segment at the end of every episode. We talk about Scripture. We share it for everybody to go out and take with them today, to have discernment and hope, and understand that even though, JD, we've talked about some pretty dark things today, we've talked about some real evil that exists in this world, there is still hope, and there is wisdom we can find in the Scripture. Today is an amazingly aligned Scripture. We started, JD, the book of Psalm about a couple weeks ago, and we're in Psalm 12 today, and we just so happen to be reading about the oppression by the wicked. This is David writing, another Davidic psalm, and I just, JD, I love how these are lining up so well, and it's not by design. It's just the news of the day happens, and then we so happen to be on Psalm 12. So I'm going to read it, but before that, JD, I want to say thank you for joining me here today. Is there anything else you want to share about what you got going on?
No, and thank you for having me as always. But I would like to say this. The light, there's always hope. A lot of hope, and that will never cease. But the light is so much more powerful than the darkness. That's all I wanted to say.
Amen, brother. Couldn't agree more. And to that end, we're going to read Psalm 12, and we'll talk about it briefly. It is called Oppression of the Wicked. This is a Davidic psalm. It says, "Help, Lord, for no faithful one remains. The loyal have disappeared from the human race. They lie to one another. They speak with flattering lips and deceptive hearts. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips and the tongue that speaks boastfully. They say, through our tongues we have power. Our lips are our own. Who can be our master? Because of the oppression of the afflicted and the groaning of the poor, I will now rise up, says the Lord. I will put the one who longs for it in a safe place. The words of the Lord are pure words, like silver refined in an earthen furnace, purified 7 times. You, Lord, will guard us. You will protect us from this generation forever. The wicked wander everywhere, and what is worthless is exalted by the human race." Now,
wow.
Yeah.
What blows me away, and I've said it on here before, is the things that they wrote thousands of years before Christ was even born. I mean, it just blows my mind.
And they wrote it, and it was true then. It was true when Christ came, and it's true now. Just the same. The same wisdom exists that we can take and put to use in our lives. Because look, we are in a world where people are lying to one another and deceivers and boasters. And the Lord gives us hope, though. The Lord says that because there is oppression of the afflicted and groaning of the poor, He will rise up, JD. He will rise up and protect us. And if we long for Him to put us in a safe place, He will. So that's my encouragement and inspiration to all of you out there listening today. Although we see awful bad things happening, put your faith in the Lord and He will deliver you. And remind yourself that He will guard you and He will protect our generation forever as we put Him first. If we do not put Him first, JD, then we will not have that. And to everybody out there listening, if you haven't accepted Jesus as your Lord yet, let me make this invitation to you. Now's the time to do it. All you have to do is say a prayer, open your heart, repent of your sin, and proclaim Jesus is your Lord and your Messiah and your Savior, and watch Him do things in your life that you never imagined were possible. And to everybody who already has accepted Him as your Lord and Savior, take these words as a promise and a guarantee that the Lord will deliver you through whatever battle you're facing, whether it's with your family, your friends, your coworkers, internally, with addiction or strife, with depression. Whatever you're battling right now, there is hope through the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. He will open your eyes up. And like JD was saying, the light is so much more powerful than the dark. Do not believe for 1 second that the light will not prevail. JD, what do you think?
Amen. Yeah, great. I love that. I love it. And yeah, you'll never get to a point where there is no point, no matter how low that you get to, where the Lord can't turn your life around.
Amen, brother. So take that with you guys today. Go out and do great things for the Lord. Thanks to my friend J.D. Plorable from Swamp Fight. Check out his show every Wednesday at 5, Saturday and Sunday at noon. This has been Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll see you tomorrow. Big show. Tune in. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.